It's time for another edition of Coach's Corner with women's basketball coach Matilda Mossman.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Coach's Corner. I'm Bruce Howard, joined by the women's basketball coach at the University of Tulsa, Matilda Mossman. And Coach, we're going to go over two games here, Memphis and Wichita State, and I think the common thread all year long is competitive, chance to win, unable to finish.
Yeah, it comes down to a missed shot here, a turnover there, a foul, putting them at the line. The Memphis game, we got off to a bad start. They jumped ahead 9-0. And then we played even the rest of the game. The entire rest of the game we played even, end up losing by 9. So that's kind of hard to take. And you know, we had our chances, and they were just Cheyenne Creighton was just too much inside. Bree Elmore was just too much on the outside, and we just didn't make shots when we needed to. You know, we put them at the line too many times. So you know, but again, we competed. We played hard. Yeah. Just wasn't enough.
Yeah, and you didn't shoot it especially well, about 36%, but you had 4 players in double figures. No huge score, but you had Polk and Wakefield and Galden along with Shug Dixon all in double figures. So you had balance in that game.
We did. It just we couldn't get stops. You know, that's the thing you have to do against Memphis. You know, they're playing shorthanded. I think they dressed 6 people for the game. But those guys, there are 3 of them that are just used to playing 40 minutes, 40 minutes, 40 minutes. And Taylor Barnes, Bria Elmore, and Cheyenne Creighton, those guys have played 40 minutes really the whole conference season. They've had a lot of injuries and that kind of thing. And we just couldn't get stops when we needed to.
And then you come back home on senior night against Wichita State, a team that you defeated way back. It seemed like that was so long ago, back on December 30th. You defeated Wichita State to start the league season, but they've improved, and they got you by 11, but again, a lot closer than that.
Yeah, it was. We had some fouls at the end where we were trying to hope they missed, but instead they were making free throws. And that was one of our disadvantages, that we fouled too many times, put them at the free throw line, and I think they got 10 more points than us at the free throw line. And that game was pretty even. I think we played really, really well for about 35 minutes. And there was the last 5 minutes of that third quarter was our downfall. It's a 2-point game, and then all of a sudden we miss shots, we foul, we turn it over. And to close out the third quarter, I think they went on an 8-0 run to close out the third quarter, and then we just played even in the fourth.
Yeah, and that was a game where in the first half you didn't do what you were hoping to do, which is stop them from hitting the boards. They had something like 12 offensive rebounds in that first half, and yet here you are, you're down 33-29 at halftime. So you battled. We did,
and you know, the group that finished that second quarter, it was Jasmine Butler at the 5, Addie Richards at the 4, Erica was playing the 1, Lex was the 2, and I think Rebecca Lasky maybe was at the 2 spot. So I called us a bunch of midgets out there, and you know, they're out there with 6'2" and 6'1" and 6 foot. And but our kids, that group of smaller guys, they just played hard. They did a great job in our 2-3 zone. They did a great job of you know, we called it passing guys off to the next guy, because in Wichita State's zone offense, there's a guy moving and there's a guy moving right behind him, and so if you're that post player, you've got to go with a guy, and then you got to be ready for another guy. And I thought the 3 guys in the back, mainly it was Jasmine, Addie, and Rebecca. Those 3 did a really good job of just handing off to the next, and I think when we put that group in, we were down maybe 8 or 9, and we were able to close it back to 3 at halftime.
Yeah, and then you know, the final was 70-59, but to go back before the game, you have Senior Day recognition. You know, and it's not only Erica Wakefield and Ebony Parker, but it's also some, you know, managers and others that are part of your program. How emotional is that?
Well, we have a guy from China, Remy, who has been our manager now for 2 or 3 years, and his face when he got to walk out and have his name called, to me that was the biggest moment of the night, because he was so in awe, and I mean his face was just, and in fact he was mouthing the words, "Oh wow." I mean, that was such a big deal for him, and he had I think his roommate walked out with him and a couple of his friends, and so that was a really cool moment to see him be recognized like that. And then Darian Dozier, our other manager, she's our head manager, been with us all 4 years. intellectual kid, trying to get into med school, involved with her president of her sorority, involved with student ambassadors on campus, involved with the psychology department, does an internship there, just has done a lot on this campus, has really, really become involved as a TU student. So it's sad to see her go, because she's been a mainstay for a long time. And then Ebony Parker, our senior junior college transfer, Ebony's one of those kids that has just been pretty low key, you know, her whole career. We brought her in as a shooter, and you know, we talked to her before the game with Brandon. If she gets hot, she can hit, you know, 3, 4, 5 in a row.
Right.
She's that good. And then Erica Wakefield, being a 4-year senior, I go back to the day I called and offered her a scholarship, and she said, "Can I call you back? I got to check with my parents." Okay, yeah, within 5 minutes. And she didn't say, "Yes, I want to come." She said, "Yes, we want to come." So it was a buy-in from her family from the get-go, and they've been tremendous.
And of course, Erica has been outstanding her entire career, 1,000-point scorer. I think she may end up being in the top 10 in scoring. I think she was 11 coming into the Wichita State game, and then number 6 all-time assist. If you can be the, you know, in the top 10 in scoring and assists, that's a pretty darn good career, isn't it?
That says a lot about her as a person too, because she's a very giving person. She's a very sharing person. So to me, she's just as happy with the assist as she is with the points.
Well, and it's not over for Erica and Ebony. They have at least one more game and hopefully a few more, because Tulsa's now off to the American Athletic Conference tournament, the championship coming up in Uncasville, Connecticut. That's all coming up. And we'll talk about that in a moment as we wrap things up here on Coach's Corner.
Power is excitement, energy, an unrelenting spirit. Its success is realized on the court, and its passion is felt in the hearts of players, coaches, and fans. And it all comes together in a conference known as the American Power for Life.
We're back on Coach's Corner, and Coach, now we flip the page to the third season, so to speak. We get into postseason play, and it's the American Athletic Conference Championships at the Mohegan Sun Arena. And let's just talk about the atmosphere of what that's all about. Obviously, it's in Connecticut, so the Connecticut fans come out and support, even when their team's not playing.
Absolutely. I remember playing Memphis there last year in the first round game, and Connecticut wasn't even playing that day, and there were over 5,000 people in the stands. So, and our conference tournament is the best attended tournament in the country. So a lot of that has to do with the people in Connecticut and their support, not just for UConn's team, but for all the teams and for the tournament itself. The atmosphere at the Mohegan, I mean, the nice thing is when your bus pulls up to that Mohegan Sun Casino, everything's right there. You walk in, you check into your hotel, you can walk to the arena and watch games, you can eat there, you can shop there, parents who come can gamble there. I mean, there's a lot of things going on, and you never have to leave the building.
Yeah, they don't want you to leave.
Exactly.
They want you to spend money, but it's a good time, obviously,
yeah.
and you're going, you're going to play in the final game of that first day. Is that good or bad? I mean, is it good to kind of watch these other teams battle, and then you're the last game you play at, it's actually scheduled for 7 o'clock Central Time on Saturday, but it'll probably not tip off until probably around 7:30, and you're taking on Houston. I mean, as a coach, does it matter if you're playing early or late?
You really don't want to play the noon game, but you'd rather play a little bit earlier. Just that sitting around all day, I mean, there's not a lot to do other than just chill in your hotel room. Fortunately, we'll be able to go watch some earlier games, and we'll take advantage of that. But just the idea of sitting around, and it's an hour later than you're normally used to playing too, and so it's just hard to fill the time a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the only advantage, I guess, is that 3 teams will be knocked out before you get to play, and you're still alive. The other part of that is if you get an early game, I've always thought getting an early game was fun because you can sit back and relax and watch all the others try to get to where you are, right?
Right. And I think because the top 4 teams are already seated ahead, you're not having to watch another game to see who you're going to play. Right. We already know we're going to play Cincinnati if we win, whenever our game has Cincinnati. And I think the other nice thing about the way the bracket turned out, 2 of our 3 conference wins we're playing those two teams. You know, Houston we've beaten once, Cincinnati we split with. So I think that's encouraging that we know that we can beat those teams. We've just got to put 40 minutes together.
And 40 minutes together against Houston means what? What are the important things for you there?
Wow, we've got to contain the dribble. When I was flying last night, I was going back and watching our game with them, and just so many times they just drive it down your throat, and we struggle to contain the ball and keep the ball out of the paint. And then the other part of that is, even if you force them into a bad shot, they're going to have people there to rebound. They just really crash the boards hard.
And so when you did win against them, you know, the game that you won against them, what did you do well? You contained them in that fashion and obviously defended pretty well?
Well, it was a high-scoring game, so I don't think we defended all that well. We just made shots. I mean, the final score was 83-77.
Okay.
I think we've only had 2 or 3 games all year where we scored in the 80s. So that's how you have to beat Houston. You have to score points with them.
And then if you win, you know, Cincinnati, they're a team you beat at home and lost at their place. So again, like you said, you at least you have some confidence. Say, hey, we beat these folks.
Right. You're not looking at a situation where, oh my gosh, this team drilled us by 30. We're looking at 2 teams that we were very competitive against.
All right, Coach. Well, let's go do it. Have some fun there. Get deep into the tournament, and who knows?
That's right.
You know?
Thanks, Bruce.
Appreciate the head coach of the Golden Hurricane, Matilda Mossman, and that is Coach's Corner.